In one of our recent workshops, the question came up about the halo effect in painting. Now, we're not talking about religious paintings either, but it's something you want to avoid. This is a technical thing I see happening from time to time in paintings, and every time I see it I think, ooh, it's one of those things where you sort of cringe when you see it. What we call the halo effect. I'm going to have to show it to you. I think it would be better to show you than explain. Now I'm going to use, it has to do when there is an image. Sometimes it's a portrait, a lot of times it is a portrait or a person's face or an animal's face, or it just could be in a still life. I've seen it in a still life too, where there is a frontal image that has something behind it, but what happens is that the brush strokes that are made behind it echo the image itself, echo the shape of the image, and it's just disconcerting, something all painters should avoid. So I want to show you how the technical way to avoid that and to be aware of it. Just being aware sometimes makes a difference. I'm using this wonderful photo of the cow. I'm not going to be painting a cow. I'm just using the cow's head because it's so typical, the kind of thing you see where you'll see that halo effect. It's like the halo of the image itself. I think some people probably call it the echo, but halo is more descriptive. So I'm going to just do a brief little preliminary sketch of the cow to place it to show you then how we can, I'll show you first of all what the halo effect looks like, and then I'll show you how we can avoid it. So we'll just do, and I'm going to lower, of course I'm just using this as something as a reference. I'm going to lower that head down here because the halo effect always happens behind it. So I'll just start, and I'll just place that at the top of the head about right there, and something like that, and then we would see the ear coming around, something like that, and then sort of comes down like that and goes off the page, and then the top of the head again and down like that, and so on like that, sort of something like that. Alright, so that gives us now an image, with which I can show you how this thing works. Now usually, sometimes, people often will paint one thing and then paint another, which I think sort of separates things, but let's assume that's what's happened here. Let's assume that maybe at least the head of the cow's already been blocked in, and now the painter sees the sky behind there and is going to paint that sky around the cow's head. Alright, so let's just see what might happen here that would produce a halo effect. So, not to be teaching, not in any attempt to teach you, painting skies and that sort of thing. Let's just see. So what will normally, the kind of thing that will normally happen is a person will do this. The painter will do something like this. They'll paint around, see what I'm doing there? Actually make their brush strokes go around the image. Go around like that. Let's get a little variation in there so you can see the effect of that a little bit better. So they make the image go, the brush strokes kind of go around like that. And if you have any real variation in that sky, that can really be kind of telltale evidence. So you can see what happens if you do that sort of thing, where you make that. So because I'm using that particular surrounding brush stroke, you can sort of see how using the brush like that will create kind of a halo effect. And especially if you're using, if a person is using really, really thick paint like that, you begin to see that, the kind of an echo of that cow shape. Like that. You know, trying to make it wrong and can't make it wrong. Kind of like that. Kind of like that. Do you see? Now you get that feeling, especially when the rest of the, then if the rest of the sky, the typical thing that you see is where the rest of the sky might go in, and then it might just take on a different direction of brush strokes. Something like that. And then that really does. You can see it now, begin to really see that halo effect. I would maybe move that interpretation of the sky and using a different, or some people will actually do this. I can't even bear to do that to show you wrong. You know, making the direction of the sky go in the same direction as the brush. But this is what happens. You see what's happening there? And I often see that where now we really see that halo effect, where these brush strokes obviously just echoed the shape of the cow. You got to watch that kind of thing. I hope you begin to see it now. One good way to approach that is, first of all, when you're putting your paint in, this is technical, purely a way to use the brush. When you're putting your paint in initially, instead of doing this, do this, where you lay the tip of the brush right next to the image and pull it in another direction, rather than echoing the shape that you're working around with the way the brush is moving. Align the brush with the edge of the shape and then pull it in another direction. And I can show you how we continue to move in that direction. We can get rid of the echo. Now, if you hold the brush like this, where your lining shape goes this way, you can actually pull it upward. You can go out. You can go in a number of directions. And you see, by doing that, you get rid of the echo. It begins to create a sequence of overlap brush strokes that feel like they're behind the cow's head rather than in front of it. Rather than echoing it. So to continue, see it again, where the tip of the brush aligns with the shape, and then you don't have to go in the directions the brush is pointed. You don't have to go in that direction. People think you do. You don't. You can align the brush with the shape, and you can move it in whatever direction you feel is necessary. And a lot of times it's a better idea to have overlapping strokes that are moving in counter direction, one direction and then another, in order to get a vibrant sky or a vibrant shape, especially where the color is similar all the way through. When you have all the strokes going the same way, the light hits those strokes, especially if you're working really thick. Let me put a real thick stroke up here and show you. Let's get that. I'll get that a little bit lighter, perhaps, and a thicker stroke. Okay, now you see that real thick stroke. If I make all those go in the same direction, even in that direction or in this direction, then the way the light comes down, it reflects all those and it makes it look flat. But if you will vary the direction of the strokes and use direction and counter direction, is sort of the way I think about it. Where when you're working with an area like a sky that is appearing pretty much the same color all the way across, you'll see variations in hue and so forth. Instead of doing that, do something like this, where you pull the brush in one direction and then overlap it in another direction. And if you will combine that with picking up variations in hue, meaning the color of the thing like that, then the way the light hits those brush strokes, it feels like it has depth rather than all going in one direction. And add that to aligning the brush like I showed you 3 times now. Align the tip of the brush with the edge of the shape and then pull it, but pull it in the direction that is determined by the direction behind it, or in the direction you want it to go. So you can pull it that way, and then you can stroke back that way. Or you can pull it this way and pull it right alongside the ear and stroke that way, stroke back that way. And you can see now, I'll do just enough of that to show you that you can get rid of just, you see how I'm varying the direction of the brush? It's just sort of an automatic thing to vary the direction of the brush. Let's get rid of the echo down here. The halo. Halo, echo, halo. Echo is also what creates the halo. Let's get rid of this right here, put it that way. Then I can align it down here, pull it up, and line it here, pull it out. Could line it here, pull it up or out, or overlap. See, like that? And then by doing that, we get those varying directions of the stroke that, instead of giving us a halo effect, creates space, makes it feel like it's creating space behind the shape that's in front of it. So it may take a little bit of practice, but the brush is our shape maker. It's not just an applicator. So to use the brush just to apply paint is to cheat yourself of part of the expressive quality you can give to a painting. So think of the brush as a shape maker, and then watch when you're making those shapes, watch the result of the brush stroke that you make in the direction it's going, counter direction you might overlap it, what's happening to the image in front as related to what's happening to the space behind it. And I think you'll find it's going to give taking that more, a broader view like that is going to give you more depth and more energy in your paintings, and it's going to avoid these little telltale things like halos where they have no business being. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.